and welcome to Healing Gals podcast, the podcast where we reconnect to who we were before the world got their hands on us. I'm your host, Molly Smith, and this week, gals, I have a very, very special, powerful episode with a woman who is a force. An advocate, an activist. She's a psychotherapist. She's also a sociology lecturer. Her name is Karen Sugrue, and you will not forget that name by the end of this episode. I invited Karen onto the podcast because she is doing research along with her colleagues around the topic of when women complain. She's exploring what happens to women when they complain in the workplace, what is happening in workplaces where there are systemic issues of misogyny and sexism and all of those kind of things. We know in the news the National Ambulance Service is going through a similar situation. We know in the documentary on the RTE player about the women in our Irish Defence Force, women of honour who went through awful treatment in misogynistic workplaces, and I had to speak to Karen about this. Now, this is a two-part episode, okay? In part one, myself and Karen got chatting, and you will see at the start of the episode, I was just asking her for her bio so that I could accurately represent her qualifications and why she's on the podcast. And once we started, we just went from there. So in the sound check, we started talking, and the talking was so good, I left it in. For the first few minutes of the podcast, there is a wire showing because that was not meant to be aired. But the quality of the conversation, the knowledge, the passion, it had to be kept in. It just had to be kept in. So we can deal with the wire. We can deal with a little wire and this taking up the corner of the screen for the first few minutes. And for those who are just listening, the wire will make absolutely no difference to you. But I wanted to just explain. So at the very, very start of me recording with Karen, I asked her, what is your qualification off camera? I hit record and she told me she is a sociology lecturer, she's a psychotherapist, and she calls herself an accidental activist. And once she said the words accidental activist, I said to her, what does that even mean? That sounds hilarious and amazing. And she started telling me about her work as co-chair of Mammies for Trans Rights. And the podcast goes from there. So that just gives you a bit of context for the start of the episode. Then everything will make sense from there. In this episode that you're listening to today, we do not talk about when women complain. We speak about trans rights, women, the burden that women carry, everything to do with women, everything to do with the gals and the issues that we're facing and how we can address them. She gives some really good book recommendations of how we kind of really just feminist authors, incredible, powerful women with really important things to say and really important discussions to add to our society. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. I said to Karen at some stage in this recording, you are speaking life into me. This is everything that I feel. This is what I know women are experiencing. And it's a fucking joy to hear another woman speaking about women the way that I feel about the gals. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to be writing things down, no doubt. You're welcome. She's amazing. She's amazing. What a woman. Oh my God. Enjoy the episode and I'll see you at the end. She's just like a fucking bad bitch. And they were like, oh my God.
Fabulous. So I'm co-chair.
Co-chair.
Co-chair. So myself and another lady set it up. We're both very proud moms of trans kids.
Of course.
And we set it up 4 years ago now. I'm kind of losing track of time. We set it up 4 years ago. When we just started to see the way the wind was blowing in relation to trans people,
Yes.
and we got very scared for our babies. And we thought, I remember at the time, three of us, got on a train and we went to and we're moms now, like we're proper moms.
Yeah.
So we were like, is it okay for us to go to like a pride thingy? Like, will they mind if we're there?
Wow, of
and
course.
we really didn't know, would it be okay? And
Yeah.
were we taking up space that would belong to somebody else? But anyway, we said, fuck it, we will. So we got these T-shirts done up that just said "Mammies for Trans
Yes,
Rights."
there.
And there it is, yeah. And we put them on. We got the train to Dublin, and it was just a small little kind of an event. And we arrived at the back of the event, and we were like, "Is this okay? Is this okay?"
As in like the parade, like for Pride?
It wasn't Pride Parade. It was like trans and intersex Pride, which is kind of usually about 2 weeks after.
Oh, I hadn't
Big
even
Pride,
heard
yeah.
of that. Wow.
So we arrived at the back. There was, I don't know, it was 100 people or something. We're like, oh my God, is this okay? And then all of a sudden, people saw that we were mams.
Right.
And I always cry when I talk about this because it's so powerful and we had no idea. But there was an awful lot, there are an awful lot of young trans people out there for whom their moms have not been able to give them the support maybe that they need, and
unfortunately,
that they, for a variety of reasons. And so when they saw mams turning up as mams, there was an enormous reaction.
Fuck.
And people asked us for hugs. And
oh my God.
So we were oh wow, we had no idea. And so that was really emotional. And then actually it must have been before Pride maybe that year. We've gone to so many marches since that I've kind of lost track. But then we went to Pride maybe a couple of weeks later, and people were coming out of the crowd asking us for hugs.
Oh my God.
We cried around the route, and young people cried as well, and they told us these stories about how their moms wouldn't hug them, and that it was so, and that they, some parents, they had to leave the kids had to leave the house, and so we were seeing vulnerability out there that we hadn't, in our privilege, I guess, in our naivety, we hadn't realised was there. And
you hadn't realised at all?
We hadn't realised that. We knew, of course, that the larger political scene was getting very bad, and we knew it particularly in America, and we were looking at it in the UK. We had really no sense of how difficult it is here in Ireland on the ground until that time. And so when we started, that's why we started doing the marches, because we were like, oh my God, there is actually a space for us as moms to kind of, so now our aim is
very needed.
Well, it turns out there is, and we're always really aware, and look, I come from, I guess, community development background, so we always really want to be really clear that we're not taking up space that belongs to somebody else.
Correct. Or
that we're not, that trans people's voices would be the most important thing. But what we thought at that time, and actually it's got worse since, is anytime a trans person speaks, the backlash, the punishment, the danger that they're put in, and it's not just them, it's their family, it's their work. They might lose their jobs and so on. So we thought, well, we're a crowd of like menopausal women. And menopausal women famously do not give a fuck. So we thought, and we were like, but you know what, let's use this.
Yeah.
And
channel that rage.
But also menopausal women tend to be a little bit more settled in life.
Of course,
For example, I'll only speak for myself. I'm so lucky I got my house back in 2002 when you could get a fucking mortgage.
Yes.
I got my permanent contract when they gave them out in 2002, when that was a thing. So I am a person of real privilege. I've got my house, I've got a job. And my God, if I don't use that safety to go out there and try and make it a bit safer for other people and stand, and my co-chair Claire Flynn, and really a lot of this came from her vision, and she was like, no, Karen, we've got to do that thing that moms do, which is stand in front of their kids.
My God, that's so powerful.
and basically say, over my fucking dead body, will you get to my kids?
Whoa.
And so that's what we're channeling when we're channeling that idea of, you go through me to get to them.
Yes,
right?
gal, you're unreal.
But while also in our bags, we've got like tissues and sunscreen and fucking granola and water, and we're like going, oh my God, you're burning, So we've got we call it big mom energy. We've got big mom energy, and that's the idea behind it all. So
wow, God.
It has, and every year, every single year, we're like, right, this is the last year now. It's going to be much better next year. We won't have to do, and then every year we're doing more and more and more and more, because the need is getting bigger. But also, I suppose the danger is getting more, and that's the negative side of it. But other side, the side that I try to concentrate on when I feel a little bit low, is that there is more and more awareness, and there's more and more people out there asking us to do things and conversation. So we're in a very funny political place right now. Not just in trans rights, in everything, in reproductive rights. And that's something I want to talk about as well, because that's
please.
something I'm really passionate about.
Same.
And women's rights, and every aspect of rights that we have fought so hard for, our generation before us, the last 50, 60, 70 years, everything is under attack right now. And when we talk about trans rights, we are not just talking about one particular issue that is unrelated to the rest. We are talking about what is happening. And when we're talking about reproductive rights, we are opening up the space for all rights. So it's, and that's why...
It's very insidious.
Absolutely. And that's why anybody who contacts me and says, will I come and meet them face to face? I love a face to face. Will I talk with them? Will I have this kind of... Always. If I can say yes, I always say yes, because it's so important. Because if we're going to change, it's got to be like this. I passionately believe it.
I agree.
So I'm so grateful that you invited me here today.
I'm so grateful you're here, Gal. I'm so grateful for your voice and for what you're doing. And I believe that you don't need your parents, but you need parental figures.
Yes.
So when you were speaking there about like going to that first march and being like, are we taking up space that isn't ours to take, etc. And the trans community kind of
taking us into their
for
hearts.
hugs and stuff, like that really touches me, because I don't have a relationship with my mum, but I do need a mum. And sometimes I am that mum. Like sometimes I am my own mum, but then sometimes I go to the forest to my friends and have a big cry and let them hold me and let them be my mum for that time, So that was one of my greatest lessons in my healing and my exploration of things, is like, oh, I don't need my mum, but I need a mum, and how powerful for you to show up as a group of mums for these young people, or for whatever age they are, that you are a mum. In that space, like that's so, I'd say that's so healing for them, Do
you know what? Well, certainly the feedback we've got is great, and that it gives them something. But I'm a huge believer in finding ways to make activism sustainable for everybody. And it's not always a sustainable space, but we talk a lot about this in the Mammies. So. And I can only talk for myself. And I guess this comes from with my psychotherapy hat on. I get an enormous amount from the fact that community have been so welcoming to me.
Yeah, of course.
And that touches into my sense of belonging, and always yearning to belong myself. And even my reticence at the start of like, that's that community, and maybe, I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. And that was really a lot about how I felt about myself in the world. And the trans community in Ireland, I can't speak for all of them because they are, a very diverse community, but certainly the people that I have kind of encountered are invariably the most grounded, the most confident, because they've done so much work on themselves.
Well, they've had to.
Because they've had to.
Yeah.
And they inspire me all the time in everything that I struggle with myself. So everything that, my body, my sense of myself, my sense of who I am, my sense of myself as a woman, I have learned from the trans community far more than anything that I could ever. So it actually I feel like I am giving something small back, actually. And in that way, I'm hoping I think that, and this is something, I have so many things that I wanted to talk to you about today.
Same. We've all the time in the world, Gal. Is there anything that you would like the general, like my listeners to know, the whole debate on trans genderism, and I suppose, like what mainstream media is showing, right, is Enoch Burke, the fact that transgender people are scary, which isn't a fact. That's a mental thing to say. And the bathrooms. I think when people hear transgender, I think that's what they think.
Yeah.
So why don't we have, like, I know we didn't come here to talk about this, but like any chance that we can, any opportunity that we can to kind of correct misinformation, I think that we should take that, and I think that it's really appropriate that, as you say, like, when we are privileged in the position that we are in and we have a space to talk about things and to educate people, I think it's a privilege for us to do so, so, like, let's talk.
Okay, I'd love to. And thank you very much for the opportunity, because I do think that I do exactly as you said. Every single chance we have to talk about this, I think, is so important. So you absolutely rightly said that there is a very particular message going out in the media, and that is there's a small but very, very vocal group out there who say a lot of negative things, led by a well-known children's author. And we know that there's a lot of money behind that. We know that there's a lot of, and there's increasingly bad faith political actors behind that. And so that it gets, as a narrative, it gets a lot more airspace than the actual numbers of people who think this. And so that's a problem. So what we are trying to do against that, because we really do want to kind of speak to the middle ground out there, but answer their questions, and because people have questions. And what we like to do, or certainly what I like to do, is I like to remind people or speak about people in the context of me being the mum of a trans kid and what that means. And of course, having a trans kid is having a kid. The least interesting thing about my kid is that they are trans. That's actually, the most annoying thing about my kid is that they won't wear jackets on rainy days, and they eat terribly, even though I'm always trying to get them to eat greens. And we want to normalise the narrative around our kids.
You mean they're the same as everyone else's kid?
See, and that's it. And what I like to do is speak to parents who are out there and say to them, like, I'm raising a trans kid and I'm facing the exact same issues that every single parent of a teenager is facing. Too much screen time and too much crap food. And do I say that they can't go on their phones? Or if I do that, then I'm cutting them off from their friends and their support. It's every issue that every parent is facing. But on top of that, there is the constant worry in my brain about the safety and whether my kid will be in a place where they are not allowed to use the bathroom. And what that means is that my kid, all of our kids, and I try, and we all try not to speak directly about our own kids, because no teenager wants their mom talking about them. Of course. So what we're really looking at is kids, teenagers, kids, young adults who have to plan their days, plan their activities, plan their lives around where it'll be safe for them to go to the loo, to check their makeup, to wash their hands. Where can they do that? And you've now, with the state of the global state of politics, you also have to decide, like, where can I go on holidays? Which airports can we use?
Wow. I never even considered it.
And nobody would. Yeah. And I wouldn't, except that I have to.
Before we continue, let me tell you about our sponsor. This season of Healing Gals podcast is sponsored by Daramats, a brand created by a woman who, like so many of us, reached a point where she could no longer live in survival mode. She came from a high-pressure frontline career, constantly switched on, constantly giving, and she didn't just walk away. She rebuilt her life around regulation, healing, and coming back to herself. And Daramats is an extension of that. Daramats aren't just yoga mats. They are a soft place to soften. They are an anchor point to bring you back to yourself during your day. They're designed as a one-time purchase, made from durable materials that are machine washable, built to last a lifetime. Each mat features stunning artwork and imagery of Irish landscapes, of nature, from beautiful landmarks across Ireland to breathtaking coastal scenes. So if you're looking for a yoga mat that is soft, high quality and will last you a lifetime, go to daramats.com. And Healing Gals listeners get a discount. If you type in Healing12 when you go to the checkout, you'll get 12% off your purchase. So what are you waiting for?
So, you know, whose house they can go to, which restaurants they can go to, when they go to gigs, can they go to gigs? It's not just about getting tickets, it's about what the venue is and whether the venue is inclusive.
And getting tickets is hard enough.
And getting tickets in and of itself is hard enough. And will it be a safe crowd? And these issues, by the way, are obviously they're really relevant right now for trans people, but they are relevant for everybody in the queer community. And there's the issue, of course, about passing. And by that I mean, you know, is a person identifiable as a member of the LGBTQIA community? And if they are right now, stats tell us they're in danger. And that's the reality of it. And you know, we could fall into the pit of European stats, Irish stats, American stats. We can see very clearly what is happening in America with the very overt rollback of rights. Increasingly alarming, in fact. There is very extreme language being used, very extreme language. And we are seeing, for example, a lot of people now trying to apply for asylum in Ireland, American people coming here. And these things are very hard for everybody to process because it is such a reversal of what we considered the norm for so long.
For so long. Every piece of media we ever consumed was like America was the land of the free. You know, the American dream. You go to America, you work hard and you can make your dreams come true.
Leader of global democracy. The peacekeepers.
Everything's possible in America.
Everything, if you work, exactly, meritocracy, democracy, all of those things. And in a very short period of time, every single one of those things has been reversed. And now America is behind. Now, when we look at stats, we can see that there was a trend this way for actually a very long time, but they were coasting on their reputation and the global community didn't. But we have no choice now but to see what's happening. And when we see what's happening there, we have no choice but to see what's happening elsewhere. And we are seeing the rise of the far right. We are seeing the rise of authoritarian leaders. And it's a very frightening, very unsettling place for us all to be. And we the adults, when I say we, I mean we are the adults in charge right now. There is nobody else. I particularly blame my generation. I'm Gen X. I was born in the 1970s. We have made an absolute
balls of it.
Balls of everything. An absolute balls of everything. And so I particularly put the call out every opportunity to other Gen Xers to go, like, we have a moral imperative now to do something. And that's part of what I came here to talk about today, is what that would look like for everybody. But context is really important. And the thing we have to recognise before we can do anything is that people are really frightened. All of this comes from fear. So when we talk about the trans community, there are a small few really bad faith actors for whom I have no empathy. The vast majority of people who have concerns about the trans community are just scared. And
can I ask you, who are you saying bad faith actors?
Yes.
Like, who are you referring to so we understand?
So I would say very directly in Ireland, we've got very conservative senators in the Seanad, very conservative TDs in the Dáil.
Okay.
Those people form a core. We've also got some very conservative journalists, very conservative members of religious groups, such as the Iona Institute. And I suppose I'm coming to this work with, in relation to trans rights off the back of work in relation to reproductive rights. And the people who hated us doing that work are the same people who hate us in relation to trans rights. So we're seeing a significant pattern. It's the same group of people. In relation to reproductive rights, what we did, again, it was a group of women in Limerick. We formed a group called Together for Safety. So this was after repeal. We all met in repeal. We formed a group called Together for Safety. And one of the things that wasn't addressed during repeal was the protesting outside of hospitals. I'm sure everybody saw that in 2018, those dreadful signs and small coffins, and it took a huge upturn after 2018 to 2019, 2020.
So people were outside hospitals protesting against women accessing abortion healthcare.
Abortion health,
okay,
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And they were holding signs with very distressing pictures, and they were holding small coffins. And this was, we found this abhorrent during repeal, but we understood, we thought this had been solved by the legislation and by the vote. It had not. In fact, they had written it out, and they said it was too complicated and that they would deal with it later. And all the way through 2019, it was happening. And then during 2020, during lockdown, it started happening in Limerick outside the maternity hospital, even during lockdown. And it just so happened that it was Limerick. We were there, we saw it, some people brought it to our attention, and so that started the campaign for safe access zones.
Okay.
So we came together and we got a piece of legislation written by barristers and constitutional experts, and we put it through the Seanad as a private member's bill. We got it into the Dáil, went to stage 2. We put together, and the reason I'm talking about this
Amazing.
is it is amazing. It shouldn't be though, but
Yeah.
it was a fantastic thing, but only because it shows like what two wands from Limerick with no legal expertise can do.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when people think of activism, when people think of changing laws, or they think that they have to have a massive, like maybe a family dynasty background in politics.
Yeah.
We don't. We had no legal expertise between us. But we did have contacts, and we asked. And so the thing that we did was we simply put together a very broad coalition of people from a lot of different groups, and we asked people to help us.
Wow.
All women.
Yeah.
So we had,
Of course.
So everybody, all these women rolled up their sleeves and worked on this. I will have to say there was one brilliant man. His name is Paul Gavin. He was a senator at the time, and he gave us an enormous amount of help and support and mentoring. But everybody else was a woman involved in this, and we got it through, and it was signed into law by President Higgins in 2024, and it was enacted in autumn of 2024. So it's been in place now 18 months. And
congratulations,
thank you
gal.
so much.
Congratulations.
And the
That's
last
incredible.
we heard, it is fantastic, because the last we heard there had been no protests of that nature anywhere.
What a difference you've made for women.
And it's really important that we know that people on the ground, and I can tell you, we had no time, no money. I was recovering from cancer. It was COVID.
Wow.
It was women helping women.
Yeah.
That's how that worked. Literally nobody who brought expertise to that table asked for anything. They asked for nothing. And we all worked together, and it was a really wonderful piece of work to be involved with, to see what happens when all these incredibly brilliant women come together.
Give me some of their names. Who are they?
Okay, so my co-chair of Together for Safety is Evie Murphy, and Evie is she is the convener of Women's Collective RWC Ireland Limerick.
Okay.
So she and we worked with Jan O'Sullivan, we worked with Paul Gavin, we worked with Annie Hoey, who was a senator at the time. I mean, there isn't a senator or a TD who would have been pro-choice in 2018 that didn't help us.
Wow.
The name of the constitutional expert her surname is after falling out of my head, and I must get it because she was absolutely brilliant. There is a barrister in the UK who reached out to us, and We actually thought at the time
What?
and she heard what we were doing. She said she would help us. She and the constitutional expert wrote the bill for us. I mean, it was just
Whoa.
women supporting women. It was really
Wow.
phenomenal. It was really phenomenal. We got the unions on board. We got a lot of the groups from repeal were still kind of working. We got them all on board. We got like people working in the disability sector, Maasai, the travelling women in the travelling community, all of the advocacy groups.
Wow.
They all weighed in behind us, and that is how that.
This started from repeal being passed. And given women in Ireland somewhat access to abortion healthcare in our country, there being protests and no safe zone for women to actually access that, and then yourself, your co-chair, and all of the contacts and women that came together and got a bill passed so that there was a safe zone for women to actually access the thing that legislation had allowed.
So right now in Ireland, there is a 100-metre zone outside every hospital, GP, health centre in the country in which nobody can do any kind of protests. Not us, not them, nobody.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's really, really important.
Remarkable. Remarkable.
It is wonderful.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be remarkable though, but I think that this is one of the things that I wanted to come today and say is that everybody should feel empowered, but they don't. And there's a reason for that. It's because it benefits those in power for all of us to think, oh, well, I can't do anything, or I can't make a difference, or, and it benefits them. And they are getting very, very wealthy off of all of us feeling disempowered. And the reality is that when it comes down to us, they are scared of us. Like they were scared of it. I mean, what happened in 2018 for repeal happened because people got out in enormous numbers.
Wow.
And because women told their stories. And that's a really key bit. And that's probably, this has naturally led to the when women complain thing. The act of complaining, I mean, that's what we did in 2018, 2017. We complained. And I mean, really significant shout out to the literal decades and generations of women before us who complained and who spoke their truth and shared their stories, because the 2018 cohort, all we did was stand on their shoulders on the work that they had been doing over and over and over. And there is enormous power in that, but it is exhausting. So as we know, any of us who are involved in repeal would say everybody was exhausted. Everybody was flattened. Here we are 8 years, and actually it's 8 years to the day on Monday since repeal passed. And I would say we are not in a place that I thought we would be. We are in a very, very concerning place. A week and a half ago, there was a bill, a new bill in relation to reproductive rights put through the Dáil. It was absolutely flattened. It was really significantly flattened. And this is, it's very worrying for a number of reasons. For me, one of the biggest reasons is that it shows division in the left. Now, the great strength of the movement in 2018 and in 2015 as well, when we brought in marriage equality, was the power of people coming together, sharing stories and all pushing in the same direction. What's happening now in Ireland and globally is that we're seeing signs that that unity is breaking down and that the left is a little bit fractured. That is not by accident, it is by strategy. And so one of the things that we absolutely have to do as an act of revolution is we have to come together, have these conversations. Why I wanted to drive here today and meet you
from Limerick, from Limerick to Drogheda.
Totally worth it. Totally worth it. Because I think we have to have face to face and meet, and it has never been more important. And I think I probably would have said that in 2018. It's so important. It is even more important now, simply because I think that not enough time is given to talking about COVID and the absolutely catastrophic impact that had on our society, our mental health, our sense of safety. As a psychotherapist, we'd be very aware of what happens when there is a lack of safety around people. You know, and I know that the work you do, you'll be very aware of the same thing. So when there's a lack of safety, when there's uncertainty around people, family systems theory is really clear on this. Unpredictable things happen. And we are seeing that on a global scale now. So people are really, really unsettled. And that's the people who are doing well are simply unsettled. We have a spectrum from unsettled to catastrophically unwell.
Yeah.
And we're not naming it. We're not addressing it. No space is being given to it. We were literally overnight told to go into lockdown. And then we were literally overnight told, I mean, I remember it very clearly, on a Thursday we were told we can go back to nightclubs on a Friday. And that is very bad for our capacity to process. Very good for capitalism, very bad for us as individuals. And
our nervous system.
And our nervous system, which had been on high alert.
Yeah.
Rightly,
For potential death at any moment.
Life and death.
Any contact with another human being could result in you dying, or you carrying something that made someone else die, that you love, or your friend's granny or someone. You were on this tender hooks. I'm either going to die or I could cause someone else to die. Holy fuck, I'll just stay here, you know, but I need connection. No, you could cause death for yourself or others, you know, like that's like fundamental. That's like, it's so, you know,
it's an existential
terror. Is the word.
Existential terror. And we were all caught in that place of, how do I keep, obviously, myself alive, but every one of us have different care relationships. So perhaps we had an older person in our lives. How do we keep them alive? How do we keep our kids alive? How do we keep relationships, friends? What about the older person who's on their own? So we're also trying to keep them physically alive, but we're aware that, well, if they're completely isolated, that is going to be catastrophic for their mental health. So there's layers and layers of how we managed that.
And how do we not terrorize the kids?
Yes.
So do all of this, carry all these worries while pretending everything's okay for the kids, and try and make lockdown as fun as possible, and come up with games of badminton, ordering stuff off Sports Direct, and make things as much to the beach, to the park, and just keep, you know, pretending everything's okay while everything very much within your nervous system feels like it's the absolute opposite of okay.
And I particularly want to, I think, mention two things. First of all, the overwhelming burden of that fell on women. And we know that. It fell on women in a number of different ways. It fell on women who were required by the systems in which they work very often to work full-time, continue to work full-time while also minding the kids. Because a lot of women reported that their male partners were going upstairs and closing the door, and they worked upstairs while the women were working downstairs and minding the kids, keeping them safe. Depending on the age of the kids, that's a full-time job. Also trying to educate them. Also trying to keep them safe mentally and physically and emotionally, and as you said, you know, and that is the women for whom things were good. What about the women who, and we really encountered a number of these women who had catastrophic level of, you know, care duty, say, of a very, very high level needs person, but they were surviving it because maybe they had a couple of people coming in for a couple of hours here and there. They had like a patchwork quilt of support that literally overnight stopped, and they could not leave the house. That was it. They had nobody. I was canvassing for a general election that just before COVID hit, and there's one woman that stays in my mind forever. She was a woman, she was 80, and she came to the door when we were canvassing. She was caring full time for her husband, who was in his 90s, who had Alzheimer's, and her son, who was 64, who had kind of lifelong needs of some description. She at 80 was minding those two men. And she told me at the time that she managed because she had, you know, people coming in and so on. And I remember thinking about her the first few weeks of COVID, going, how is she managing this? How did she manage? And she was far from on her own. that was, and afterwards, and I've been out for different canvassing elections and things since, so we have heard on the doors that there is an enormous amount of trauma being held by overwhelmingly women who had to do all of that on their own for enormous amounts of time with absolutely no support. So, you know, and women were predominantly frontline workers, and you know, I could go on forever. Like, COVID was catastrophic for women's income because women are predominantly the people with precarious contracts. So a lot of them lost those contracts. Women's earnings globally have dropped. And we know this, we understand this in sociology, and it's
sorry for interrupting. I have dropped since COVID.
Since COVID.
Because of those, like, losing those precarious contracts, or...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because so they had a patchwork of support and organising and kind of precarious contracts here and there and things like that. And women are predominantly are the ones with the precarious contracts. And
When you say precarious contracts, are you talking about, like, on an evening doing a bit of cleaning in this establishment and then minding a few kids on at this time, and all to get between all those bits of work, having some sort of an income that sustains their family,
sustains their family and is possible around their care duties, but it's also part-time work. It's also, so any kind of contract that has precarity built into it, you know, the 0 hours contracts, and so all of those people are predominantly women, and they were absolutely eviscerated by COVID. And we, you know, those kind of pieces of data and information are coming in ever since. So women bore the burden of that on a number of levels, financially, on a care duty, their own systems, their own health. Women are only recovering now. I would say a lot of women are not recovered because there's no place for them, there's no space allowed.
But also, they probably don't even know what it is, you know? They probably are feeling like... I have found this to be true so much for women in my work, in my exploration of myself and supporting other women and stuff, that, like, they're feeling this thing, but they couldn't name it or pinpoint exactly where it came from, because the burden had been happening before COVID. Do you know?
I mean,
so it's hard. It's probably hard for them to even say,
absolutely,
that's what it fucking is.
You
know?
And you're so right to say that, because this did not drop out of the sky on COVID. Like, women's lives are so burdened with care. And look, I say, when I use the word burden with care, I think we have to kind of not challenge, but unpick that a little bit, because people feel a bit uncomfortable. Like, I'm a mom of 2 kids and I adore them. But when we talk about the burden of care, we're not talking about love. We're talking about work. And we need to separate out those two.
Oh, that's so good, gal.
Really, it's really important. We can love so much, and that is unaffected, but we are human beings, and when we work, we get tired. And caring is work. Care work is work. It is work. And when you look at everything that women, and so much of it is invisible, and so much of it is given absolutely no time or status or recognition. You know, even if you break down, and we hear this a lot, and you know, when I was doing a lot of kind of client work and clinical work with women coming in, you know, they'd be in long-term marriages, long-term relationships, and they would be talking about the kind of work that their partner wouldn't see. So to be like, remembering to remind the partner that his mom's birthday was coming up.
The mental load,
that's work. Remembering that there has to be a yellow t-shirt for Yellow T-shirt Day at school with €2, and remembering that, you know, remembering that you have to book the uniforms in July, or else they won't be in for the end of August.
I have to do the shopping, because I'll give him the list, goujons and all, but he won't get the right goujons. He doesn't know that she doesn't like the ones with the batter. She likes the ones with the breadcrumbs. You know, all of those things.
And nobody sees that. And very often women find themselves, or report, I should say, that they're sitting on the couch. At the end of the day, their program is on, or whatever they're watching, but they're on their phone doing the big shop, ordering it. That's work. They're not off.
Yeah.
That's 10 o'clock at night, 10:30, 11 o'clock
That's
at night.
not a rested brain
That's
or
not
nervous
a rested
system.
brain or nervous system.
Yeah.
That is a nervous, and so you're on and you're doing the big shop and you're remembering about the particular goujons that will be eaten versus the ones that will not be eaten.
Yeah.
And then you're also going, as I'm on, I might order the present for the thing. Or you're coming up and it's the start of September and you're going, you know what, the lads are going to want a Halloween costume. I need to order it now to be there for the blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
That is not a rested brain. You are working.
Yeah.
That is work.
Yeah.
It is work that you do that nobody else does or sees or counts as part of the working day.
I think that people are afraid to name all of that and say that it's a burden because they haven't separated love from
Care work.
care work.
Yes. And it's really, and it's key. Like, we can love with all our hearts an elderly parent.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to do.
It's very
care
taxing.
work.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is the most taxing thing.
Yeah.
And every piece of research out there says that it is the most taxing thing that you will ever do. You know, we can love our babies, but if we haven't slept for 18 months, then that is by its nature, we are human organisms. We need to sleep. But
Yeah.
if our sleep is disrupted every 40 minutes for 18 months, then that impacts our capacity in every direction. And on top of that, then women particularly have the burden of we should look a particular way.
Yeah.
We should, you know, our houses should be a particular way. Jesus, don't be a mess, like,
Yeah.
because you will be blamed and not a male partner.
Yeah.
So all of those things are burden heaped on burden and have nothing to do with our capacity to love. And what happens then is we don't have anything else to give to ourselves. So maybe we can't exercise, or we have to eat an awful lot of like sugary stuff just to keep going through the day, and we don't have anything left in the tank to meet a friend. We just can't.
Yeah.
It just isn't there. So we're getting more and more isolated.
Yeah.
And then we find ourselves, Jesus, when was the last time I went out, or when was the last time I did anything that was fun?
For me.
For
Just for me.
nobody else.
Yeah.
And sometimes all of that is going on, and we're there and maybe we'll be able to be there for a friend when the friend needs us, and that's fabulous. But that also takes from the tank, and when we have nothing left in our tanks, we actually find it very difficult to accept or allow anybody. So we go into a state whereby it's very, very difficult to come out of that. And that is why, or one of the reasons why, or that process is why, about 80% of autoimmune disease at the moment.
Did you see that spider?
No. Oh, look at him.
You're okay with spiders?
Totally fine.
I'm okay as well, but I was like, oh God, I hope she doesn't panic.
No. That's absolutely fine. About 80% of autoimmune disease right now is being diagnosed in women.
In women, yes. I speak about this all the time.
I mean, this is so important.
So important.
To me, what we're seeing is multiple systems causing catastrophic health impact on women.
Yeah.
Multiple systems. And a big part of it is this burden. Another part of it is in the emotional regulation that we are told we have to engage in, because don't be angry. Don't be angry, because a nice woman isn't angry, and you better be nice, because if you're not, no one's going to like you.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't want to be a difficult woman, because a difficult woman is the most...
The worst thing you could be is a difficult woman.
The worst thing you can be is a difficult woman. Don't be difficult.
Yeah. Can I just say, Gal, you are speaking life into me.
Yay,
you know,
I love
like I hope that you're having the same impact on my listeners, which I don't doubt you are. But these are all of the thoughts that I have all the time. Like, I speak on every platform that I have. I speak about how I just want women to have a life that they've designed. I want women to have a life that they enjoy, that they've designed, and that they don't have to they don't have to take part in this system. It doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for us. And settling for love that it doesn't take any of their problems away, only adds problems. You know, like I have found, I have found, like, through my work and through like the healing that I've done and stuff, I have found a life where I have a husband that takes away all my problems, takes them away. If I have a problem, he takes it as his personal responsibility to remove that problem. And we all deserve that. You know, we all deserve a life where we have a network around us that is supportive to us. We don't give until we're bleeding. We give and until we get a sensation in our body that says, "Oh, gal, I think you've given enough, Angel.
Yeah.
You've done enough now. We're feeling tired and we're not feeling very honoured. So come on now, Angel. Could you get us a bath? Could you get us a meal? Could you make some time to be in the forest on your own with the dog?
Yes.
We're done now. You know, I want us to get to a place in life where that is our life instead of, and there's still areas of my life that I'm working on that I want to improve, but I haven't yielded these results from being like, hang on a sec, I'm not fucking taking part in this anymore. You know, I have the results and the outcomes that I'm having. I'm like, oh, the gals, we should all be having this. It's possible and we deserve it and we should have it. And it starts with saying, I'm not taking part in this system anymore. This system that is systematically ruining my health, ruining my mental health, taking care of everyone else's needs, not honouring myself. An inner child, what's that? Do you know, like I want us, I want women to have a life that they have designed, not one that has been mapped for them, you know. And when, like, because of the work that I do, when women message me and say, women literally, I swear to God, this is probably one of the most common messages that I get. I go to the toilet when my body gives me the urge because I listen to you. So I always say to women, if long-time listeners will have heard this a million times, I always say to women, when you have the urge, when your body gives you the sensation, oh, I need to pee, drop everything. There is nothing more important than honouring your bodily needs. Nothing. There's nothing. A spreadsheet, you're in the middle of something that's on a timer, just let the timer run out. Let the timer run out.
So important.
Put it down and say, I'm going to honour my body first before I honour any other person, especially a man. Any other person in this room. I'm getting up now, I'm going to honour that. And when we do that, we give our body signals of safety. And our body needs those signals as it needs oxygen, you know? So if you're holding in your pee or your poo or whatever, or you haven't gotten to change your pad, but you're like, fuck it, after this I'll go and I'll take care of that. Why is this more important than your bodily functions, you know? And in holding in your functions, the natural things that your body needs to do at the time when it gives you the sensation, we're sending the message to the body that there's a tiger outside the cave. Because really our bodies are operating off evolution kind of systems, you know? So like if we're holding it in, historically that would have been because there was a danger there that we couldn't honour our needs. So we have to hold it in until the danger's gone. And that serves a wonderful function if you're in danger. But if you're doing a spreadsheet, gal, you're not in danger. Why are you giving your body the message that you are?
I love this.
You know?
It's so important, and it's so important. There's a load of bits, so that is key. The other thing that we have to do, and the other thing I want to say before I say that, I am not coming to this conversation, any part of it, having solved any of this for myself. This is a process for me, and you know, and I feel constantly like I am undoing a lifetime of deep programming. So some days I get it better than other days, and some days I don't get it at all. But one thing that, as a girl who grew up in the 70s and 80s and 90s and 2000s, is that, you know, I internalized this idea that my body was too big.
One of the main things that I hear from people is that I wish I preserved their stories. I can't tell their stories the way they did. I can't sing their songs the way they did. Well, that's where Evertold comes in. Evertold is a legacy storytelling platform, essentially a personal podcast, if you will. I come to you with compact recording equipment, and I sit with the person that you want me to interview in the place where they are most comfortable, and I ask all the questions that you want asked. I can ask them to sing their favourite song, I can ask them to tell their favourite stories, and you will then have that video recording saved in a beautiful treasure box on a memory key, just like this one, that can be plugged into any television, laptop for the rest of time. You will never regret doing an Evertold, but you may regret not doing it. So get in touch if you would like your very own Evertold for you or someone you love, and make sure their stories are not lost to time. Healing Gals podcast get a discount, so make sure you quote Healing Gals podcast when you contact me. I'll look forward to speaking to you.
And and disgusting in 1,000 ways, and that it needed to be smaller. and it needed to take up less space.
Yeah.
There's a core message in me that I am too big in every way that a person can be too big in this world.
Yeah.
And that, what you said there about bodily function is key. The other thing that's key is we have been taught to disregard hunger and to treat it as an enemy or a failure of some description.
Yeah.
So that if I feel hungry, I'm like, oh my God. Whereas hunger, if we listened in exactly the same way you said there about listening to our other biological pieces, when we listen to hunger, we're like, oh, okay, my body needs fuel. I'm going to fuel my beautiful, fabulous self, you know. And what do I feel like? I feel like something sweet, or I feel like a thing, or whatever the hell, I'm going to do that. And that gives us message. It does a pile of things. It gives us the message of safety, because it tells our nervous system, we're going to mind you. We're the adult.
Yes.
Now we're the mom.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give you want some little treat, you're getting a treat.
Yeah.
You just, you're fabulous. But it does other things too, and this is really important, because when we don't listen to our hunger or our biological needs, what society is teaching us is that our experiences aren't valid. And if we don't believe our own selves, and we're in a world that doesn't believe women's voices. When we go to a doctor and the doctor doesn't believe our pain, it then becomes a life or death issue. And this is where the intersection of all of our identities is really important, because I am a white woman, the whitest woman that you will ever meet in your life. As you know,
I disagree.
I am white. I'm in the middle of my life. I am middle class. I'm called Karen. I mean, so we have to look at the intersection. So somebody like me has layers of privilege.
Yeah.
And, I can go into a doctor and I can say X, Y, and Z. And I may or may not be believed. And a lot of women are coming out and saying that they are not being believed, and they aren't. And but black women are not believed to an extent that is causing their deaths at a far higher rate than it is causing white women's deaths. And white women are dying unnecessarily. And so we have to speak at intersections. And I think this is really important. When we listen to our own bodies first and foremost, and when we believe ourselves, then we are better resourced to believe other people. Because this belief in people...
Say that again.
So when we believe ourselves, we are better resourced and better able to believe other people. So, this not believing people is very important. Somebody gets raped or sexually assaulted. Did they? What were they wearing? Were they drinking? Why was she out? Why was she there? She should have, blah, whatever. We don't believe her. But whose voice do we believe in that? The poor GAA guy, or whoever. Or
his reputation.
His reputation, or in, say, Natasha O'Brien's case, the wonderful Natasha, people were, that poor man's career in the military. His career. We must believe him. What did Natasha do to, And so that comes from a place, and I really, one thing I do, and I am the most passionate pro-woman person, women's rights, that you will ever meet. But we do need...
I love that about you, Gal.
I am. And
I appreciate it about you so much, Gal.
I'm passionate, but as women, we have to look and call ourselves out for the times that we don't believe other women. And the times where we say, and I've heard women say this about women, oh, she's only looking for attention. And I always feel like saying, you're goddamn right, I'm looking for attention. I am, and I tell you what I'm going to use that attention for. I'm going to use it to highlight a really important issue, or I'm going to use it for myself because I want it. And that comes from, it's so important, because attention is currency. And these are not my ideas, by the way. These are the amazing ideas of Mona Elathawi, who is an Egyptian-Canadian activist. And I have her book here. Can I show it?
Please.
Yeah, I've brought books because I just think we have to listen to the words and voices of black women and women of colour from around the world.
I love black women. The 7 necessary sins for women and girls. Mona
Elathawi. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but she, even if you listen to
El-Tahawi. Yeah.
Even if you listen to one of her many YouTube videos, she is just fabulous.
The back of her book, the first line says, "Feminism should terrify the patriarchy."
Yes, yes, and she talks really clearly about attention being currency and how she used attention. It saved her life because she had a platform and she got arrested when she was protesting, and then when she escaped, she used attention to save the life of another protester who had been arrested and managed to get them out of prison. And this is why the patriarchy does not like us to have attention. It's why it tries to shame us for taking.
Gal, that's a very interesting lens for me to take on right now.
So
I
important.
appreciate that. Yeah.
And I think of Natasha a lot in relation to this, because I saw a lot of women say, "Oh, she's looking for you." Yes, she is looking for attention.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and she deserves it. And she can use it however she wants, but she has chosen to use it to highlight the inequities in our judicial system and the misogyny that was behind how her abuser was treated.
Yes.
And she has used it to highlight so many women's situations and cases. And that is a wonderful thing. And that is why they don't like us to have attention.
Yeah.
And one of the tools that they use to control us is shame. And you'll hear, and just to go back to black women's voices, women's rights are the canary in the mine of the rollback of rights in general. So when we see women's rights anywhere being impacted, we need to see that as a red flag.
Yes, I feel that. Yeah.
So right now we're right in the heart of it. But black women have been feeling this for decades, and they have been saying over and over again, they've been saying this is coming. And white women, and I include myself very much in this, I guess we felt we were safe, and it didn't feel so urgent to us.
Yeah.
So we thought, that's terrible, and we're so sorry for you guys. But we didn't feel the urgency of it. But now under Trump's government, when we see white women being pulled out of cars and shot in the face, now we feel the urgency of it. And when we see our reproductive rights being rolled back, now we're right, and now we feel it. And so I feel that how can we make amends to black women? We cannot ever, but maybe we can platform their voices and their words.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important thing. And they have been saying for decades that there is a huge problem of racism, structural inequality, misogyny. The brilliant Kimberly Crenshaw has talked about the intersection of these things. So we cannot just look at racism or misogyny. We have to look at the intersection of those things.
I'm not familiar with her. Who is she?
She is a professor and activist. She coined the term intersectionality.
Oh my God!
Yes.
Of course.
I very particularly brought these books because I wanted to name them. The other author that is just, for me, is a must read is Bell Hooks.
Bell Hooks, of course.
And The Will to Change. Now there is a pile of obviously there's so much to Bell Hooks' work, but The Will to Change is really accessible. All her work is really accessible, but that's particularly important. And
would you say this is the number one? If you were to start reading Bell Hooks, would you start with this one?
Yeah, I would, but anywhere. And one of the things I love about Bell Hooks is her work is free online. And she has made it because part of her kind of politics and philosophy was to try, and she had the means to do this, but she wanted her work to be accessible to everybody. So she said, she didn't want it just to be academics and, all that really kind of clinical language. She wanted it to be accessible to everyone. So all of her work is free online, and it is written in a very accessible way.
Wow.
So I love Bell Hooks, and Bell Hooks talks in this about love and about the way in which men and masculinity have been really profoundly damaged by patriarchy.
Yeah.
And the result of that is that women are not safe.
No.
Men are damaged, therefore women are damaged, and so this is a system issue.
Agreed.
Yeah, and it's
Agreed.
a brilliant read. And
Amazing.
the other one, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about today, 2 hours in, but this is what I actually wanted to talk about today was Sarah Ahmed's work on making complaints. And this is her second book on this topic. She's got loads of books, but her first book is simply called Complaint. This is her most recent book, and it is really important because it talks about her whole ethos is that she was a prof in an English university, and she helped some students make a complaint, and she saw firsthand what happens when people complain, particularly women of colour, particularly people with precarious backgrounds or maybe minority backgrounds or vulnerable backgrounds. And she left her teaching position because of how badly the institution dealt with the complaint.
Wow.
So now she is, talking about that, and everything that I am kind of saying is really based on Sarah Ahmed's work.
Okay.
She's talking about the UK, but it is so clearly applicable to Ireland. And, when we are talking about all of this, and I'm going to talk a little bit about complaints and so on, but really it's in the space of activism and what we can do to make a difference. All we're doing really is, if you think of a jigsaw, all of these things are simply like maybe a corner piece or a piece of sky, pieces of, but what we're doing each time we go, maybe trans right might be a corner piece up here and reproductive rights might be a piece down here, and what happens to women when they complain at work, that's another piece. And Sarah Ahmed's, I would say, is a huge big chunk down here.
I think that this is so helpful, Gal, the way that you're giving me like an analogy, or a metaphor, because sometimes I feel like, and I think this might be quite a universal experience for women who try to improve things for other women or improve things for Black women or improve things for the LGBTQ community, that like it feels like you're fighting and and am I getting anywhere, but when you think of it in that sense as a puzzle, that every time we do and we take another step forward, it's the corner, it's the piece of sky, it's
and there are
Gal, your work is so important.
Thank you.
I
So
think you're amazing. Honestly, like this conversation is fucking. I'm thrilled this exists.
Oh my God,
thrilled, Gal.
And look, and I love this, and I think anyone who did anything in 2015 for marriage equality or repeal would say the same. Like, it was based on conversations, literally knocking on doors and having human to human, looking in someone's eyes and saying, this is,
let's fucking go. Yeah.
And so I think that this is a really important thing that we do in this world that tries to separate us all, tries to other us, tries to make us suspicious of each other. It's very hard to be suspicious of somebody when you're sitting in each other's company, or it's very hard to be suspicious of a mom who talks about her baby, even if you're like, okay, trans people, but then you hear about a mom who's like, oh, my kid, won't wear a jacket on a cold day. And you're like, oh my God, my kid won't wear a jacket on a cold day.
And then you're like, and my kid isn't safe going to a concert. And you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Her kid. What if that was my kid,
And then you say, oh my God, my kid isn't good. I'm worried about my kid. Violence towards my kid, different type of violence, but it's still, so what we're talking about, all of us, and what we're all afraid of, is the same set of problems. We're coming at it from slightly different directions, but at the end of the day, we all want our kids to be able to go to concerts safely. We all want to have relationships safely. Yeah. We all want, really, it's so shocking that what has come out over the last little while about, the CNN report on the number of women who are being drugged and raped by their intimate partners, and those partners are then going online and talking about it. That is hard to fathom in this world, because when you think about what we're told as women, we're kind of like, if something happens to us out in the world, we're like, well, should you have been, what were you wearing? Were you out drinking? So then, like, the messages, stay at home. But actually, the stats are really clear. You're actually in more danger at home with a male partner than you are out in the world with a stranger. So where do we go to be safe? And this is all part of the same. We are talking about the same thing. Yeah. And when we realise that we're all talking about the same thing, and when we realise that by talking about it, what we're really saying is, I want to be safe. Yeah. I want to be loved. I want to have connection. I want to be seen for who I am, because I can tell you, I, as a 50-year-old woman, in this world, I want all those things. My trans kid wants all those things. My friends want all those things. My mum, my amazing mum, who's in her 70s, she wants all those things. Queer people want those things. People in the black community and the traveller community and people with people with disabilities and women and men want all those things. Every single one of us, no matter what background, no matter whether we have a vulnerable social identity, whether we have a privileged social identity, most of us have identities that are intersections of some privilege and some vulnerability. Wherever that is, our basic human need, yearning, is to be seen and loved for ourselves.
Connection, love and safety.
That's it. It's so simple. But it has been made so complicated by the world that tells us that some people are more valuable than others and some people are more worthy of those things than others. And that worthiness manifests in infinite ways. Like, are white people more worthy than people of colour? Society tells us the white people are, that we are, because in the way that we see huge outrage if a white person gets killed and silence if a black person
3 black women were recently found dead in a body of water and there's actually there's something going on with at the moment. There's a lot of people, kind of normal people on different platforms reporting that there has been black women found dead at bodies of water for the last decade or 15 years or something, and that it's just not being reported on. And recently these 3 black women went for a swim in the sea after a nightclub. It's just not, what they're saying is it's just not something that black women do. Between the wigs and the weaves and the braids and the outfits and the makeup, black women don't go swimming in the sea after a nightclub. They just don't, and at the moment there's it's just not been it's not on the news, it's not anywhere. It's kind of,
and imagine if it was 3 white women.
well, this is the point. If it was 3 white women, it would be 3 women. We wouldn't hear the end of it.
There would, and rightly, rightly.
But also, let's talk about our black sisters who are they're dead. The 3 women are dead. And their whole community is saying that's not something we do.
And think about Aisling Murphy and the very rightly the outrage,
of course,
that came about after she died. But in the very same week, another woman died and was murdered in Dublin, and she was a woman of colour.
Didn't hear about it.
And nobody heard about it.
Yeah.
It wasn't talked about. And that's how those are the messages that are out there, that are, some people are more worthy. And that their deaths are more important or more outrageous. And as we're having this conversation, and I really want to get his name right, I need to say the name of Yves Sakila. Who was, who died this week or in the last couple of days.
We have to be careful because there's going to be a trial. So we have to be careful in what we say about that and how we speak about it. So
and I want to be very careful, but we know that the facts of it are that, because we've all seen the video, that he was a Congolese man who died on the streets of Dublin in broad daylight. And we have seen videos that had a number of men sitting on him, and we know that he died. And so we have to, of course, we don't want to in any way impact the court case, but we do have to be really clear that there is and it was on the very same week that Bertie Ahern talked about, in a very negative way, about black Africans, and he specifically named DRC Congo. And so
the Democratic Republic of Congo.
And so we have to be very clear that we cannot speak about, or rather, we cannot allow ourselves to be silenced and not speak about these things, because we need to humanize this. We need to know, and we need to be very clear that shoplifting, if that's what happened, and we don't know it did, but if that's what happened, shoplifting does not carry a death sentence in Ireland. And that each and every one of us equally are entitled to fairness and equity under the law. We are entitled to have representation, and we are entitled to have the facts of a case looked at, and so on. That did not happen here.
No, and I suppose the point of us talking about this is that when there is so when we speak about the fact that Aisling Murphy, her case was all over the news,
Yep.
as it should be,
Yep.
and that a woman died the same week in
Yep.
the same similar circumstances, and haven't even heard of it, you know. That gives us the messaging that the life of a white person is more valuable than a life of a dark-skinned person. So when dark-skinned people are being dealt with by security guards or whatever, whether it's conscious or subconscious, they have received the message that this person is less than human, less important, less valuable, less worthy of due process, care, etc. So that is the point in talking about this. I made a video on the rise in racism in Ireland, and just shared my condolences with the Congolese community, because it's very scary for them to see their members of their own community been treated as though they are less than human, because that means that that's potential for them. So now we have activated in an even more so activated a nervous system of a community that is now going to carry higher fear going out into the world, to go to work, for their kids to go to the cinema, etc. So when we talk about Bertie Ahern and his comments, and when we talk about the rise of like this rhetoric around the black community and the rise of racism in our country, it leads to these outcomes, because then people with darker skin are treated as though they are less than human, because we have received the messaging that they are less worthy, valuable, and
less entitled to rights.
And
less entitled to the same rights that we have. And it's a dehumanizing narrative. It's really, really insidious and toxic. And we see it being done to queer people. We see it being done to trans people, very particularly. But when we, with regard to this incident, we absolutely have to look at the impact of racialized language on these incidences. So if there is a narrative out there that one group is more dangerous, more violent than another group, then people are going to respond from that place. And it comes back to fear. People like Bertie Ahern and bad faith, and go back to the bad faith political actors that are out there, they have a platform and they use that to generate these kinds of narratives. They might say that they're only having conversations, they're only asking questions. But we know that it has a real life impact. So we know that all of this hate and fear of the trans community is resulting in real life attacks and murders.
Because people are seeing them as less worthy, less valuable, less human. So then they are treated as such. Even if you're the type of person that would say, I would never, just because someone's trans, like I mightn't agree with it, but I would never blah blah blah. It's coming out in your actions. It's coming out in the actions of the security guard. It's coming out in the actions of you in a group where someone shouts a slur and you don't say, whoa, what the fuck? That's a human, bro. That's a human, pal. What are you doing? Do you know? It comes out. So the harm that is caused by the rhetoric and by these things is causing actual physical, emotional, bodily harm to the people who are on the other end of it.
Absolutely. And we see that in so many ways. So earlier we talked about 80% of autoimmune disease in women. If you look to populations that have like minority ethnic status, we see a much higher rate of autoimmune disease than we do in the general population.
Of course we do.
And again, higher again within, say, black women are higher than black men, and they are both higher than white people, and so on and so on and so on. And it makes sense because they are subject to constant microaggressions, subject constantly to threats, fear of threats, fear of violence. If you live in fear in that heightened state at all times, then it does have an impact on your health and well-being.
And you have to suppress the rage that comes with that. Like it's so unjust for somebody to be targeted by their appearance, whether that's the colour of their skin or that you can tell they're a member of the LGBTQ community. It's so unjust, unjust. It's so unjust. It's so unfair, and that brings about a particular type of rage. But if you are having to suppress that rage, we know that is one of the main causes of autoimmune diseases. Gabor Mate speaks on, I talk about this I quote Gabor Mate all the time. Yeah, like I think it's really helpful for us to know.
I think,
So
yeah,
I
it
say
is.
to gals all the time, get to the forest, get to your mattress, whatever, punch, kick, scream into things, get that rage out because it
Yep.
has to go somewhere and we don't want it to make you sick.
Okay, this brings me along brilliantly to the complaints.
Okay. Well, what did you think of that episode? Gals, when I tell you I was floating after talking to her, I felt energized, I felt um motivated, I felt like, let's go, there's work to be done, let's do the work. We're making things better for the gals. You know, I felt that like, yes, come on, you know, like that just real passion for making things better for women. I hope you feel the same. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Next week, we'll be back with part 2 of this conversation where we talk about the research around when women complain and all of the things that affect women in misogynistic workplaces. So, a very needed conversation. Can't wait to see you next week. And remember, you're good enough exactly as you are. Mind yourselves, angels. See you next week.